I think the answer is humility. We live in radically uncertain times, and leaders have to accept that they don't necessarily have all the answers to the challenges and problems they're addressing. It takes humility to admit that, but that's necessary in order to create space where people can engage with challenges in new and creative ways and develop new solutions to them.
To build on that uncertainty theme, my view is that leaders need to exercise self-compassion towards themselves and towards others. In particular, in periods of uncertainty and the fast pace of change, you find that people feel really outside of their comfort zone and struggle with that. So to express some level of compassion towards people during those difficult periods is really important. When I think about turning uncertainty into an experience, the first thing that comes to mind is turning uncertainty into an experience of learning. You can't actually explore the unknown, you can't actually open up to the possibilities in uncertainty without actually opening up to the learning that comes with that. So it is that curiosity and it's also the courage to step into that space, that experience that becomes a useful experience rather than something to be dreaded.
Uncertainty is something that terrifies people in many professional environments, and the reaction that inspires is usually denial. People like to sweep uncertainty under the carpet. They don't want to admit to their fellow workmates that they don't know the way ahead. In some situations, in some companies, that can be really problematic. It can even be a career killer. So people like to pretend that situations are not as uncertain as they actually are. So I think it's the leader's job to bring uncertainty to light and get everyone focusing on it so that people can respond to it in creative ways. Well, there are two levels to the answer to that question, psychological and cultural. We don't tend to enjoy being in uncertain environments. It makes us quite terrified and sometimes will inspire the fight or flight response. So what we tend to do is just sort of leap ahead and try and close down the uncertainty of situations by proposing easy answers or obvious solutions. That's the psychological response to uncertainty. At the same time, there's a culture that in many companies that privileges expressions of certainty and self-certainty. And in these kinds of environments, it's just not possible for people to freely admit that they don't know the way ahead, they're uncertain about the way to proceed. So there are psychological reasons, there are cultural reasons why people try to deny uncertainty.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think we're hardwired to know. And not only that, the pressure to know is so unbearably strong that even if we were to exercise that humility that you were talking about before, it's really hard to say the very simple words, I don't know. The pressure coming to us as leaders is unbearable. I once spoke to a leader in a European financial institution who she was talking about that pressure to know and the challenges that she was facing in her role, that she wasn't actually able to be open with her people and actually say, look, I need your help, and we can all learn together here. So she had to pretend that she had all the answers, which in the end backfired. Your question makes me think of the Romans roaming the world, during the Roman Empire, exploring new territories, trying to conquer new worlds. And in those times, the map of the world was had blank spaces, and in those blank spaces there were these words, "Here be dragons." Here be dragons, because it was actually, and there were dragons painted in those parts of the map. And the cartographers in those days were warning explorers not to venture into those territories, because who knows what might happen, right? There were many dangers. So I think those dragons, metaphorically for us these days, are, first of all, those signs are happening in our body. Whenever we step close to the edge, when we're facing the unknown, there's a myriad of emotions and sensations that happen in our body that hold us back because it feels unsafe. Some people speed up. Some people buckle down and control. Others withdraw and become quite passive. We can be paralyzed by analyzing the problem to death. We can avoid the question altogether if it challenges us. So all these are signs that we are close to not knowing.
I would actually turn that question around, because I think that uncertainty is the condition of life. In fact, there are only certainty itself is extremely rare. Strictly speaking, the only things that we can be absolutely certain of are the products of logical equations or mathematical equations, or the product of technological data-driven systems that are premised on logic and mathematics. Everything outside of those formal structures and formal systems is really uncertain. So I think the question is really, why is it that we put so much effort into denying the uncertainty of life? And why is it that we're so bad at responding to uncertainty, given that we've all been dealing with it since the day we were born? It's a mystery to me. I think it's important for leaders to see uncertainty as the gateway to possibility. Everything that uncertain is, well, it's like that region at the edge of our map, which may contain dragons, or it may contain a big pot full of gold. We have to go and explore to find out. So I think that the thing that leaders need to do is to teach people to try and transform the experience of uncertainty into the opportunity to learn and discover. I mean, who knows what lies in uncertainty? There could be great wealth and great reward.
I like the idea of exploring the unknown, and it makes me think of the leader as an explorer rather than the leader as an expert or as an authority figure showing the way. So also, how do we bring people along with us? And going back to our conversation earlier around curiosity. So the curiosity to explore, if you're tapping into that curiosity, I think you can actually see the opportunity in and the possibility in uncertainty. It's reframing the unknown as a place full of potential, or as a not just a place, a space full of potential, rather than something to be dreaded or feared. Mm-hmm. And that requires, I mean, it's easier to say than do. It requires us all working together rather than, the leader showing the way. Wow, that's a big question. How should leaders approach uncertainty? I think it starts with the self, with yourself. You need to look at yourself. I think it's our responsibility as leaders to become more self-aware. Because if we are not actually aware of what happens to us in uncertainty, then other people will see us withdrawing or retreating or acting impulsively. So if we can manage ourselves, if we can actually work on ourselves first, that's our first responsibility. And secondly, it is really about how do we work together. You can't separate one from the other. I don't think you can expect other people to do things that you're not prepared to do yourself. Mm.
I think leaders need to build a culture of experimentation and learning. This is something that the best startup entrepreneurs do very well. But people working outside of that space, in corporations, for example,